Okay, so for this day, we're going to learn how to do histograms. And they're not too bad. As you can see, I have the math space up, so I'm going to actually do most of the problems on the math space so you can kind of see what these will look like when you try some. So it goes, which number occurred most frequently? They're talking about these midpoints, and the nice point is sometimes these midpoints like have intervals, like this being like some decimals in between here and here, but it looks like for this example they're just talking about discrete things. So when we look at which one occurred most, it's really easy to see that that would just be 2. How many scores of 1 were there? Well, it's easy enough to go up to here and say that's 12. Well, maybe I miscounted. Let's look. How many scores of 1 were there? So, oh, this is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. So that's one thing you do need to be careful of, is see what the legend is counting by, because you can make that mistake. How many more scores of 2 were there than 3? So 2 had 30, 3 had 10, so that's a difference of 20, and easy enough. Let's try the next question. Okay, so now we're going to create one of these things. It's kind of nice in math space because you can just actually pull these levers up. So we're going to pull that to 7, that to 10, this to 7, this to 1, and this to 2. Later on, we're going to learn how to describe some of these shapes. This one doesn't have that nice of a shape, but we'll start to describe these. Which had the most common response? Well, that's easy. That's 10. And that's all we're going to do with that question. Okay, so this is the amount of snowfall in centimeters that's recorded at the base of the mountain. So what's our frequency going to be? Well, obviously, it's going to be the amount of snowfall. So we're going to check that answer. And now we're going to answer the following. So we have 1, 2, 3 that are zeros. Now I just look for ones. So as I go across, I just have 1, 1. Hopefully I'm going to do this right. This is the hardest thing for me to do, is just copy back and forth. Now let's look for our 2's. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 2's. Now let's look for our 3's. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 3's. And this is the tedious process. We have 1, 2, 4's, 5's when we go to. We have 1, 2. Yep, and that's it. And then 6's, I have 1, 2, 3 6's. Hopefully this checks out. Maybe I miscounted something. I'm going to see what I miscounted and get right back. I missed a 3, but this is the hard part on a computer, so don't worry too much if you miss that. On how many days did 6 centimeters of snow fall? And so we can see that pretty easily. That's 3 days. On how many days did at least 1 centimeter of snow fall? And so since it says at least 1, that'd be from here to here. So we'd have to add up all of those things. So that's 1, 6, 10, 12, 14, and 17, I believe. Yep. We're going to do the last one, which is going to start dealing with what we're going to call cumulative frequency graphs. Okay, so this example actually does a really good job of showing what I mean by sometimes the midpoint isn't exactly what they mean. So sometimes, like when you want to show like a lower bound to an upper bound, you take the middle of the point and go, hey, like there's some stuff in between here. So when they say 23, they don't really mean 23. They mean anything from 21.5 to 24.5. So when we do this, we're going to look at this example. We're going to look at our frequency. And for this, our frequency is 2. And then for this one, it's 3. And for this one, it's, I don't know, 29. 0. 32 is 7, it looks like. Or 8. 8. For 35, it looks to be up to 7. For 38, it looks to be up to 5. And then this one looks up to be 3. Now we're going to do a cumulative frequency. Cumulative frequency means add as you go. So that's 2. That's 5. That's 5 because we didn't add any. That's 13. That's 20. That's 25 and then 28. And now we're going to construct a frequency polygram. That just, these are kind of like line graphs is what they're called. They call these what do they call them? Polygon graphs, frequency polygons, which, sure, I guess that's another name. Normally they're called line graphs. They're basically the same as histograms. They just use lines instead of bars. So generally, I mean, it doesn't make a difference which of the two you use. Histograms are just more common, but it's good to see kind of how these things look. Now they want the ogive. Ogive is the fancy name for a cumulative frequency graph. Now ogives are normally lines. Like you do not construct cumulative histograms very often, but you do construct cumulative frequency graphs. So I'm going to actually use these numbers now. So I got to go 2, 5, 5, 13, 20, 25, and 28. So we'll do that really quick. 2, 5, 5, and I already forgot what I had. 13, 20, 25, 28. 13, 20, 25, 28. And now though, we're going to ask some questions of in between, which we've already done before. If you're struggling on where the midpoint happens, you can look at the midpoints to see where the class limits are. This one has the midpoint of 29, so that's 0, obviously. I typed 0, I thought. This one's 24.5 to 36. Oh, so this is a wide margin. So it's probably from this 26 right here to this 36 right here at the end. So that would be 3, 11, and 3, 11, and that's 7 more, so 18. Below 33.5, so everything below this, so that's 8. Another 3 is 11, and another 2 is 13. And above 30.5, that would be this endpoint here. So that's 8, 7, or 8, 15, 20, 23. Sure, let's go with that. And so that's how you do this cumulative frequency. If you have any questions, please send me an email. And I think it's all